Hello guys, welcome into Lauren's Leos. First, I want to apologize that this video is not being posted when it was originally going to be posted. This is Simba. This little booger decided to go into shed, and then his sister Elsa also decided to go into shed, which then kind of changed the outcome of what we could do for videos. But without further ado, if you're new here, please like and subscribe, share this video. If you have any questions or comments, please make sure that you put them down below in the comments section. Today's video is going to be all about choice-based handling and why it is beneficial for your gecko as well as you. So what is choice-based handling? Choice-based handling is basically giving your gecko the choice to be handled. It's giving them the option. They're the ones making the decision if they want to be handled. I also want to apologize in advance for my voice being a little bit raspy. I've had a little bit of a frog in my throat, as well as if Mr. Simba decides he doesn't want to cooperate. If not, I can try to do this with Elsa, but I figured I would do it with Simba since he tends to be the least confident and the least handled of my two geckos. But without further ado, I will kind of get into it. So first, what you're going to do is you're going to open their enclosure. You're going to make your noise, your clicking noise, or whatever noise you decide to make. And all you're going to do is stick your hand somewhere near them. It doesn't necessarily have to be right in front of them, but somewhere they can see it near them, and just leave it there. So I know that he is in this log, and this is going to be a little bit in my way. So I'm just going to move it because it's not going to help. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place my hand right here. And just leave it there. Now, he doesn't tend to be held very often, so I can gently give him a nudge. Now, if you're a beginner and you've never held your geckos and you don't know how they're going to react, I would not suggest poking them like I just did with Simba. I know my geckos relatively well, I would like to think. So I know that I am able to do that. He's probably not going to want to be held, but I can see his little head. But all you're going to do is just leave your hand here for a couple of minutes. Let them do what they want. Now, Simba does not get held as often as Elsa does. So there is a chance that he can and could nip at me. And that's okay. But choice-based handling, in my opinion, is the best and, quite frankly, only way you should ever handle your geckos. It reduces the stress for them. So a lot of people say, oh, well, you can come over top of them and just kind of scoop them up. Well, in theory, yeah, you can. However, it can create a prey versus predator reaction, and that can stress them out. So I try to avoid doing that unless absolutely necessary. I don't like stressing my geckos out. You shouldn't either. It's not something they enjoy. I don't enjoy being stressed out. So that can cause other issues. If leopard geckos get extremely stressed out, they can drop their tails, and that causes other issues potentially, that opens the door for potential infection, and other things as well. So that's not a good thing that you want to happen for your geckos. Choice-based handling is also extremely beneficial for building a bond and creating and building that trust between you and your geckos. So being able to do that just as any animal owner is a great thing to do. You want your animals to be able to trust you and feel comfortable being held and being around you. Now, with that being said, every gecko is different. Not all geckos are going to want to be held or are going to be okay with being handled. So you're gonna have to take some time and kind of figure out if your geckos are just too young and don't understand, or if they just really don't like being handled. So it kind of looks like Simba's just not going to be interested. So I'm going to put his stuff back and I will move on. So I can try this with Miss Elsa. So this is Miss Elsa. Now, she's been a little bit temperamental lately, so I do not know how this is going to go. But typically, she's pretty good with being held. Now, once you do get your geckos to climb up on your hand, the first thing you want to do, the first step in choice-based handling, is handling them within their enclosure. So just do it for 5 or 10 minutes a day, handling them within their enclosure, so not taking your hand out of their enclosure, and then just putting them back. Now, with that being said, you do that for a week or two. Make sure that you and your gecko are feeling comfortable. Both of you are comfortable with it. The next step would be to get a chair, set it up next to just outside the enclosure, and to then do the same steps you were taking, like I am now. And then you're able to take your hands out of the enclosure and handle your gecko just outside their enclosure for 5 or 10 minutes. The reason this is a great next step is because if for some reason your gecko does spook or shows signs of being stressed out or wants to go back in their enclosure, you are extremely close and are able to quickly and safely put them back into their enclosure without stressing them out too bad. So that is what I would do. Now, again, once you are doing that for about a week or two, then the next step, you would take them into either a couch or even like a bedroom, sit on the bed with them and handle them. Now, remember, while you're handling your geckos, you do not want any other type of animals, whether it's cats, dogs, birds, anything like that, in the room. It's a safety risk for not only your leopard geckos, but also for your animals as well. So it's just a good practice not to have other animals in the room. Oh, big yawn. Big yawn. Are we just not going to want to come today? Now with Elsa, I can kind of get a lot closer to her. She may not want to be held right now, which is fine. But whether they wanted to be held or not, I did want to make this video for you guys. But basically the whole concept is you're giving your geckos the choice whether or not they would like to be handled. And if they don't want to be handled, that doesn't mean anything's wrong. Doesn't mean they're sick, doesn't mean anything like that. It just means they want to be left alone. And that's okay. Now, when should you not handle your leopard gecko? 1, I would suggest not handling them first thing in the morning. I would not handle them in the middle of the day. I would not handle them prior to feeding. Now that for me is just a choice. Other people do not necessarily practice that. That is a personal choice of mine, but I prefer not to. And the biggest thing is not to handle them if they are showing signs of shed or in the middle of a shed. Biggest reason for that is it causes stress. They're already stressed out from shedding. They're uncomfortable. It's just not a good idea to handle them while they're in shed. So that would be really the only time not to handle them. Now, it all is going to depend also on the age of your gecko. So if you have a hatchling or a juvenile or a baby, if your leopard gecko is screaming at you, clicking at you, hissing at you, standing up broad, probably the best idea is to leave them alone. That is their defense mechanism to tell you to go away. And from experience, when leopard geckos scream at you, it does startle you. It's very, very effective for them to tell you to go away. It is scary. So the best bet for that is to just leave them alone. Now, I've never heard Elsa vocalize, but Simba, he has definitely screamed at me. So it looks like Elsa's probably just wanting to be left alone, but that's okay. I can try again with her later. But that was basically all you would do. So kind of recap, first thing you're going to do is open up the door, make your introduction sound, and then you're just going to place your hand somewhere in the tank near them where they're able to see your hand. Now, when you're just starting out, if you're a beginner and you're uncomfortable with that, you can place it a little bit farther away. Just make sure it's within their view and they're able to see it. And it is something to be aware of, that you are running the risk of potentially being nipped. Now, as I've mentioned in videos before, I have never personally been bit, so I cannot give you firsthand experience of what it's like to be bit. I have heard from either friends or other people in Facebook groups I'm a part of, other YouTubers that I follow, that it's closely resembles like a light brush of sandpaper, or even like a light clip of like a clothespin with sandpaper on it. So it's more startling than anything rather than painful. But just know it is a possibility. You are more likely to be licked than anything. Now, Elsa is definitely a licker, but they have something called a Johnson's bone, which basically, if you know anything about reptiles in general, a lot of reptiles have this, and it's basically a Johnson's organ, excuse me. And basically all it is an organ in their tongue that enables them to essentially almost smell you through tasting you. And it allows them to tell whether something's alive or not. So you're more likely to be licked or kissed rather than anything. But yeah, so you just place your hand in the tank, leave it there, let them do their thing, let them make the decision. Don't force them to be handled. Let them make their decision. If they're like my geckos right now and they don't want to be handled, leave them alone. Don't bother them. You can always try again later if it's early enough, or if it's too late, definitely try again the next day. I would not suggest trying more than like twice in a day, only because you run the risk of potentially stressing your geckos out. But just things to keep in mind. But first, handle within the enclosure. Then the next step after a week or two would be to get a chair and handle just outside the enclosure. And then the last step would be to basically handle outside of the area where their enclosure is, either on a bed or a couch or in a chair. And remember, all of these areas should be pet free. So either close the door or just keep the area pet free, whether it's dogs, cats, birds, anything. Now, if they're in cages, obviously that's a different story. But for the most part, I would keep the area pet free. But that's today's video, guys. If you guys have any questions about it, or if I missed anything, please leave it down in the comments. I know previously, I believe comments were shut off. I did manage to fix that. So please like, subscribe, share this video with your friends and your family. And stay tuned for our next video. It will be posted on Thursday. If you guys have anything that you would like to see, please leave it down in the comments. If there's any questions you have, let me know. I will answer all of them. And I will see you guys later this week. Thank you guys. Bye.